Well, good morning. Welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Chamberlain. What's up?
Well, it's a beautiful Thursday morning here in Lagos, Nigeria. I am Kayode Okikelu.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Ayo Makinde. Seems sweet. There was a memo circulated.
Yeah, it's...
By who? Security agencies?
I don't know.
It just happens like that. I think blue is one of the best colors, really. You can
is that the memo he's talking about?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Well, incidentally, blue is one of the colors of one of the services in the armed forces. And so it is cheering to have that parley with the CDS yesterday.
Okay, that would be a very tricky one.
They had it wearing blue. Because of blue.
Well, I don't. Maybe they weren't in blue. I mean, the report will probably show that, that it wasn't. But at least the call by the Chief of Defence Staff, being the Chief of Defence Staff, not just the Chief of Army Staff, not just the Chief of Naval Staff, not just the Chief of Air Staff, but the Chief of Defence Staff. Like the Captain of Captains saying, let's have a conversation with the media. For me, that is something significant, because we report all of these things. We go from place to place, bringing to people, especially broadcast journalism, going from place to place, bringing information to people and all. But that there's something critical in what the CDS said when it talked about. Hitherto, there had been the perception of us versus them, which is true to an extent, because, go back to the aftermath of June 12. It was the military in government at the time. And it would seem like any time the media gathered, wanted to get anything, there was a serious clampdown, especially during the Apache days. And it was always a clampdown against, the media by the soldiers, military operatives and all of that, just saying, look, you can't publish anything, you can't do this, you can't do that, and it would seem like that had kind of progressed on into this Fourth Republic as well, such that the transition from military governance to civilian governance has happened officially, but operationally, to some extent, we still have a situation where that transition is still happening. So, and then made worse perhaps by the, crime and criminality in the country, such that soldiers now have to do police work. So we see more soldiers on the streets a little more frequently than we ought. And, of course, that friction is there between the military and the media, which has to report these things to the people. So the army or the military is calling for that collaboration. I'm just hoping everyone gets the memo.
Well, it's good to see that there was representation across board at that meeting. And, this just points me to the bigger picture, as it were. So the message essentially was, this is a collective fight against insecurity, because insecurity does not just affect the military or the police. In fact, it's the people that essentially affected first, and they get the military, the police, essentially to wade in. So first, it's meant to be a collective war, as it were. Yes, we do not have guns, we do not have, the platforms and all, but you know what they say about the pen, right?
Mightier than the sword.
Absolutely. Now, this time around, a gun. And, media is really segmented, and that's the point I wanted to make when I said it's a together fight, as it were. Media, yes, you see us as the big ones, as it were, but media is actually accumulation of the society, as it were. And I think it's important for this to percolate, because I recall that you were asking earlier on that, how would this percolate all the way down? Yes, the CDS has met with the top media houses, representatives, but to the man on the street, the policeman on the street, well, that's another kettle of fish entirely, or the soldier on the field, how will they get this memo? Because most times when media approaches for a story, the first sense is, oh, wait a minute, they want to expose us.
Yeah.
What are they doing here? And you don't want to know what we have to go through trying to cover stories or trying to ask questions. So it's important for that, top level understanding and collaboration. But believe me, you believe you, me, as they say, on the field, you have to meet, with the policeman, with the soldier, and ask questions. I've been following up on this case of kidnapping between, Oron and on the waterways, essentially. And, there have been questions, but you find out that stonewalling is what you get. And the media is actually there not to, you know, say you're doing the wrong things. I mean, we report what happens. And I recall that memo last year that, you know, there should be fair reportage. Some took it as don't discuss security and all that. The media is actually there to provide information. And I'll tell you this for free. People approach us with information, with intelligence. When we talk about people sharing intelligence, people approach the media first and you ask them, have you reported this to the police? And they're like, well, reported the last time, nothing was done. So if the security forces would actually just have this back-end relationship that is fluid, then we can do better together. In fact, we're stronger together.
Maybe to just quickly emphasize something that you just said now. When we bring this information to public view, it is not to expose anyone or to indict anyone or to malign anyone. It's to bring the information to those who will need to act on it. Because most of the time, people, I mean, government officials, for God's sake, how much can you do? How many are they that can do these things? But when this information is out there in the public, oh, we haven't done this, let's give it attention to it. And that has happened severally through this program, through this organization, Channels Television. So that's the whole idea, and let's just emphasize that.
Well, I don't know. It's going to be. It's more like an institutional problem. It's not. Look, it's good to have this kind of policies, but there's always a big but to some of these things, and so sometimes, because look, what the media does is enshrined in the 1999 Constitution. They go about their legitimate duties. So it's just like you hear, I mean, the last time I had someone from the judiciary here, they was talking about how they don't think that they think there has to be that improvement and recognition between different arms of government that, look, they're equal rights. You know, the same right that establishes functions of certain security agencies, the same one says the media have to perform this role. And don't forget, there's a huge, big deal about the word respect from all of those agencies. So if they bring that on board, it will go a long way. Because, look, what the media, different people, there's no point going down history or memory lane, how different people have tried to muzzle the press. It just doesn't work. It won't happen. You could try all you want, but it won't happen. Because the government will come, government will go. The people will always be there. And these days, look at the advent of social media, which just democratizes that space. You know, those editorial functions that trained personnel usually carry out is no longer there. So now some realize that, oh, wait a minute, I think we were even better with traditional media than the social media, because these guys on social have no chill, much more than the ones who were trained. So you see, now is which is the lesser evil. So, but society we need to go back and think, how do we ensure that, look, they're just different aspects. So they're all just playing up in my head in terms of how to ensure these kind of things happen. Because when you get to some of the other, even West African countries that have gone through war, you see their top military brass, the media approaches them, they oblige with ease. You don't have to go through the eye of a needle to get access to basic information that the media will even help the country disseminate. So when you hold some of those things, we always say here that you can't create a vacuum in nature. So if you think, oh no, this is top secret, it's classified, no problem, keep it classified. But when they report certain things out there, because people will run with whatever they run with.
Absolutely.
And so you end up chasing the stories as opposed to setting the agenda and ensuring, no, this is what transpired. Look, those chaps who give daily briefings every day are not stupid. These are studies that they've conducted. So when they say, why should we talk? No, we're not going to.
No comment.
It doesn't help anyone. So I don't see any media that is there to bring down their country, because they have to have a country first before they do their jobs. So they need to understand that as well, the mindset, understand how the media works. Because it's I know people fear what they don't understand, but this is not one of such. There are several people who are willing to come through and do certain things, but no need to even summarize.
Way to go, right?
Those, yeah.
All right, well, maybe we listen to that report and see the angle that the CDS in particular spoke from.
The Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabor, is meeting media executives bureau chiefs and editors of broadcast stations, as well as newspaper publishing houses in Abuja for the first time since assuming office. Over the years, the relationship between the media and security agencies in Nigeria has consistently been frosty, with journalists sometimes harassed and their lives threatened in the line of duty, as explained by one of the media executives attending the parley.
The relationship between the media and security institutions is necessarily one of tension due to differing institutional cultures and goals.
But the current security situation in the country requires the collaboration of critical stakeholders, and this media parley is believed to open a new vista of relationship between the armed forces and the media for such synergy to thrive.
The media has a cardinal role to play in advancing the cause of national security. The leadership of the armed forces of Nigeria thus views our esteemed media executives, editors, and bureau chiefs as critical stakeholders that cannot be ignored.
For the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabor, the media play a critical role in creating the ambience for socio-economic development of Nigeria.
There is a common cause. That common cause is our freedom and liberty. That common cause is for a secured environment. That common cause is for us to look forward to fulfilling our desires. No doubt, many have thought that all along it is we versus them. I'm hopeful that at the end of this parley today, we no longer see ourselves as we versus them.
This move by the Chief of Defense Staff may be commendable, but Nigerian journalists hope to see the extension of this relationship in the way they are treated by officers and men of the armed forces and other security agencies in the country while carrying out their constitutional responsibilities. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Welcome back. Let's run you through some of the dailies, and we'll start with the Guardian newspaper here today. The big story is focusing on, there you go, Governors Labour kick as NNPC presents 3 trillion naira subsidy bill to FEC. NGF Labour leaders seek forensic probe of NNPC's figures. They've been going about this for a while now. Allege fraud in consumption distribution numbers. Nigeria will pay price of more borrowings. Presidency confirms OPS concerns. So this is going to be an interesting one. That's if this will be sorted before the next conversation about subsidy comes up in terms of NGF and then fraud and consumption, distribution numbers. We'll keep tabs on that one. But above that lead story, you see Rivers floors FG over police trust fund deductions. Wike says it's victory for democracy. So that back and forth still making the rounds right there on the front page. But just beneath that lead story, you see reps reject immunity for Senate President, Speaker, others. Oh. There you go.
You see what's going on in the UK with the Prime Minister. and you're like, wait a minute, can this happen here?
Well, those are the kind of things that people are looking to see. After all, it's a democracy, and so some of those tenets should be allowed to play out. But now, they're seeking immunity. Oh, wow. That's serious.
Wow.
That's the Guardian today.
We'll take a look at the Vanguard. That's what we have next on the plate for you. After all, it's a breakfast program, right? The lead one, it's on subsidy as well. Let's battle subsidy on truth together. Governors woo Labour. can recall that question about the collaboration between governors, state governments, and labor. You asked Mr. Joe Ajeru, and I guess this is an update to that one. It's a page 5 read. Kick against removal of subsidy until what federal government's telling the country is confronted frontally. Okay. Frontal confrontation, there you go. Alleges only 8 states benefiting directly from subsidy. Notes lacuna in subsidy removal agenda hidden in untruth. Suspension of fuel subsidy removal will result in more borrowings. That's from the presidency. We had Mr. Femi Adesina on the program yesterday speaking to that effect. As well as a host of riders, really. It's a packed front page of the Vanguard. Clearly, subsidy is a big deal. And is this a year where we'll unravel all the complexities and secrets about subsidy? Well, we'll find out. And you see that one, Rivers floors FG over police trust fund deductions. As court declares deductions from Federation account unconstitutional. And the governor says it's victory for democracy. Page 8. Don't forget that VAT one is still in the courts. We'll wait to see what comes out of it. Isn't that meant to be in January or February, the hearing? But you know what? We'll be there for you to give you the latest. Mr. and Mrs. is on the front page, but let me tell you about this one because it ties back to the whole talk about subsidy and revenue. FG's revenue shortfall put at 1.9 trillion naira in 11 months.
Shortfall?
Yeah. So we're not making enough. But the one we're making, there's sports on the back page, and you see that one. Salah sends Egypt through to quarter-final. The same Egypt that we beat 1-0,
It's football.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those things happen.
Yeah. Mr. and Mrs.
That's why it's always good to tell people, focus on your team, on yourself.
You know the thing about North African teams, they're always very tricky to come up against. And
someone told us that they have the academy, they build a culture, but here everybody just wants to just get in and play.
We had a football academy, guys. We had a football academy.
We actually still have academies all across the country.
Look,
what's the culture?
Do you remember USFON? Youth Sports Federation of Nigeria.
Which year was that last?
That was in the 80s. Yes, I know.
So this is 20s.
That's what I'm saying. We had it. Why did we lose it?
I thought you said we have it.
We had. D ends with a D.
We had, it's history.
That's the thing,
history.
Chamberlain. You just referenced now that those guys in North Africa, they have it. They didn't just start it yesterday. It's been on for years, decades. What happened to us?
Yeah.
Well, I've got another question for you, but this is from Mrs. to Mr. Saying, the nightmare again. What exactly did you see? Apparently, I think Mr. had a nightmare. And Mr. says, school fees, rent, and the rest were chasing me in my dreams. Always happens in the month of January. To all the misters out there.
In the month of February, few subsidies chasing too.
To all the misters and misses having to, carry the bills, I say, kudos to you. There's a Vanguard this morning.
Okay, the front page of the Nigerian Tribune looks like the result of a wrestling match or a boxing match. That's it right there. Rivers floors FG.
Was it a technical knockout or knockout?
You have to. The devil is in the details.
Okay.
I borrowed his lines again this morning. Court bars direct funding of police from Federation accounts. Orders refund to Rivers. To Rivers. Does that mean not to others? Find the details on page 4 of the paper this morning. Right under the picture you see there, 3 trillion naira fuel subsidy. How NGF Labour brokered truce. Fault administration of subsidy regime. We need to carefully verify all NNPC's estimates, says Fayemi. NLC, TUC decry trust deficit in previous negotiations. All of that story you'll find on page 6 of the paper this morning. NSARS, or your judicial panel recommends compensations on 121 petitions. And right above the nameplate, Saraki Okorocha joined 2023 presidential race. I guess, as they say, the race is on. That story is on page 8. That's the Tribune this morning.
I thought you were going to say the race is not to the swiftest.
Oh dear. Well, look at Daily Independent this morning. The FG to increase borrowing to fund 3 trillion naira 18-month subsidy bill. That's a big lead right there. And then the first of the writer says to ask NAS for amendments to fiscal framework 2022 budget. Amend PIA to accommodate 18 months subsidy from 6 months. So there you go.
So finally, federal government can say that, well, we're borrowing to fund consumption, right? Because it's never right. So is this
They borrowed
this
the
umbrella now to hide and I say,
before.
well, there you go.
So, well, that's another one. But look at this at the bottom strip. Oh no, before I get to that one. Group asks Senate to reject INEC nominee. Says she's APC member. So this is coming up again. So it means all those who cried wolf. So you see, not that there was none. There is some, as they've seen on the front page here. So,
by the way, that's the electoral umpire.
yeah.
That's like one of the most important organs of any nation.
That's not like.
It is.
Because it's the recruiting agency for the people who is going to make the country work.
All right.
That's the HR
Okay.
of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Interesting angle to that one.
That's the...
Just don't call your HR INEC. Come and get to the office.
As you go to the ER.
Oh, goodness.
Well, look at this at the bottom strip here. Constitution review. Reps seek creation of 111 additional NAS seats for women. So reps don't want to leave their seat. Just create additional. Let me stay put.
And this is coming on the heels of people saying we need to collapse, the bicameral into one. And
Now you're creating additional seats. Whoa. Recommend 6 more in state assemblies, making it bigger. Reject state police despite rising insecurity. So did anybody expect them to go against it? Remember, the president said he doesn't subscribe to that.
Yeah.
So it turns out that the National Assembly can't go against some of those things. So especially thought if you're looking for something else. Deny immunity for Senate presidents, reps, speaker, others. So, and they're not going to do anything. They can't even touch the immunity clause for where it exists. So even though they have the powers, but nobody sees that happening. That will be the day if that were to happen. So there you go. That is Daily Independence this morning.
I just wonder if this will be the year that we'll see that constitutional review, what did they say, hit the ground running, or at least come to fruition and see the
Because
outcome.
they remember they said they had $1 billion naira
Budgeted.
allocated to that committee as budget. So $1 billion naira, guys, $1 billion naira.
In the meantime, the Daily Times is next with this one on 2023. Yes.
Sorry, yeah, they don't do what the people want. Even though they have $1 billion naira of the people's money. Oh boy,
Oh, gosh.
what a scenario.
Okay, the Daily Times is next, and the focus is on 2023, saying, don't endorse presidential aspirant. ACF warns members. Yes, it's that period where you see endorsements and the rest. And a few riders on that one. On top of the nameplate, you see court outlaws deduction from Federation account by FG to fund police. But looks like this is particularly for river states. Can other states now come and say, well, you've done for rivers, let's just hide under this and implement it for us. And I should mention that the Olu of Warri was with the president. Yes, they visited the president and made some demands about the ports, how the ports need to work in that area. And we look to see because if that area opens up, I mean the possibilities are really endless. That's the Daily Times.
The leadership newspaper this morning was also interested in the fuel subsidy story. And this is how he puts it. That's it right there. Fuel subsidy. Heat turns on NNPC as governors NLC query consumption figures. Governors want 411 naira pump price. Say 3 trillion naira subsidy not sensible. FG has wasted $10 billion on refineries rehabilitation. That story is ascribed to Labour. So is it the governors are now alleging corruption? By the way, that poll I will put up yesterday is still out there. You can just go ahead and respond to it. It's a vote. It ends in less than 12 hours. No, wait.
2 hours.
In less than 2 hours, so yes.
In fact, in an hour or thereabouts.
Okay.
Yes.
So that poll is still out there. It will seem like the governors themselves are now, I don't know, are they alleging corruption?
Well, I think it's been the talk ever since. If it's not corruption, then what is it?
Okay, well, if it is not, what is it? So it is not corruption? Okay, let's assume it is
yeah,
not.
I mean,
so give it a name.
This is, by the way, this is clear as day. Our refineries have been moribund. We've been trying. I mean, this is, as I said, this is one of the best kept secrets, and it does not make sense for an oil-producing nation like Nigeria that earns what, I mean, the amount is mind-blowing to be where we are today. So if it's not corruption, what is it?
Anyway, there's so many other stories on the front page of the Leadership newspaper this morning that you will find interesting. Don't forget to go and hit our Twitter page right now and vote on that poll.
Okay, don't forget News Direct as well. I see 1.2 trillion naira MDA's unremitted revenue in banks ascribed to reps. 1.2 trillion naira MDA's unremitted revenue in banks ascribed to reps.
How much is our revenue shortfall again?
1.9.
Okay.
And then there's 1.2 trillion of MDA funds in banks.
So we need to get the context of that one. Because I shouldn't just be sitting doing nothing. Okay.
You know, sometimes you just see these things and you ask yourself, what?
Well, the Vanguard puts it that reps probe unclaimed trillions of naira. Trillions with an S.
But that could come in different ways. Remember there was that policy or the conversation about unclaimed dividends and revenue from shareholders and things that government wanted to have access to. So is it the same thing they're talking about here? Well, you may have to read it to put that in context, especially if you see that from News Direct talking about unremitted revenue for NDAs that are in banks. So if we have revenue shortfall and this money is there, I know, it sounds simple, right? Swap. Well, I don't know. Well, that's a look at some of the dailies. We're back in a moment. Stay with us.
For the first time this year, President Muhammadu Buhari chairs the virtual Federal Executive Council meeting at the State House. A number of ministers are in attendance as crucial issues contained in various memos are addressed, including fuel subsidy removal, which has made the headlines recently. Moments later, the Finance Minister, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, announces a request presented by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited following a recent decision to extend the fuel subsidy.
Population, heightened inflation, and also that the measures that needed to be taken to enable a smoother exit of the fuel subsidy are not yet in place. It was agreed by Council that it is desirable to exit fuel subsidy. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC, has presented to the Ministry a request for 3 trillion naira as fuel subsidy for 2022. And what this means is that we have to make an incremental provision of 2.557 trillion naira to be able to meet the subsidy requirement which is averaging about 270 billion naira per month. That will end up with incremental cost of 3 trillion in 2022. So this has been considered by Council, and we've also been asked to approach the National Assembly for an amendment to the fiscal framework as well as the budget, to also further discuss with NMPC on how to make provisions for this and also how to rationalize this expenditure.
When asked about how the additional budget would be funded, the minister reveals strategies to be employed.
So we hope to reduce it from that 3 trillion. That is one. Secondly, we hope to reconcile to reduce the cost, but also we have several reconciliations with NMPC, and NMPC itself is owing in some cases government. So we want to be able to settle some of the subsidy costs through this reconciliation process.
The executive is also seeking restoration of certain funds deleted by lawmakers amounting to 103 billion naira.
Part of the request that Council has approved today is for the National Assembly to repeal clauses 10 and 11. So clause 10 is referring to a provision that has been made that will enable the EFCC and the NFIU be able to take 10% of whatever collections that they recover. We're asking for that to be repealed because this is in direct contrast to the acts of these two agencies, and also it is in contravention with the Fiscal Responsibility Act and the Finance Act 2021.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Okay. Are there other doubts and concerns regarding the actual number of barrels of crude oil Nigerians consume in the country, when the right time will be to remove fuel subsidy, and whether or not the present administration is simply pushing the burden of fuel subsidy removal onto the next administration? But the president's spokesperson, Mr. Garba Shehu, insists that the APC is the next administration. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Welcome back. We're keeping tabs on some of those matters which have been raised, as you may have seen there. So you see Dr. Billy Gillis-Harry joins us. He's the national president of Petroleum Products Retail Outlet Owners Association of Nigeria, but we will also be joined by Dr. John Arena, who will come on shortly. Well, Dr. Harry, good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. Well,
good morning, Chamberlain, and good morning, Nigeria.
Thank you. You've been observing all of this going back and forth, and you know, time and again, people always look to dealers, those in that sector, as perhaps being partly culpable for where we are today. But given this back and forth, yes, the PIA government will go ahead and be applying for some extensions for some months, and then there will also be some funding. NNPC has requested that much. How is this playing out in your field, for instance?
Well, it sets quite a lot of confusing signals, and it's very worrisome for our association that is so critical to the stability and growth of the Nigerian economy. As you know, the retail outlet is the last mile in the distribution chain of petroleum products, and whatsoever policies that are made that will not give us the ease of doing business, to be efficient, to ensure that we deliver petroleum product to the teeming Nigerian public. It's a very big concern for us. Don't forget that Petron was one of the earliest associations that applauded the government for passing the PIA. Even though at that time we looked at it critically from our prism, and we came up that the document is not what we like to see, but we hope, that we'll be correcting it as we advance in the process. But believe me, we didn't expect at any time that there will be a total reversal of the decision to put the PIA into operation. And for us, as good as government's policy will be at all times, we think that we really need to focus on growing the Nigerian economy by all standards. And this is something that we need to, deepen. The effect is very tremendous, and we do hope that it doesn't bring several setbacks.
So, does that then suggest, would it be fair to say that having been one of those that backed the PIA, does it mean that Petroleum supported the removal of subsidy?
Petroleum from day one has always spoken against removal of subsidy. I mean, spoken in favor of removal of subsidy. The reason is simple. So much money being applied, to subsidy. We need to know exactly how it impacts on the economy, how it impacts on us, the retail outlet owner, how it impacts on our employees, how it impacts on Nigerians on the street, how it impacts in growing the economy. So for long, our maths did not, quite come up with any positive values why the subsidy should stay. But government always has some empirical evidence or some information that we as practitioners don't know. So in as much as we will not come against the decision of government to continue with the subsidy regime, we do advise that it's not in the best interest of Nigeria to continue in this way. We need infrastructures to ensure that this country is stable. We need education. We need medical facilities. We need effective transportation. We need our rail lines to work. We need our waterways to work. We need our pipelines to get back to business. So these are the areas that we thought that such an amount of money should be invested in.
All right, so shed some light on this for us, if you will. Because, you're the outlet, you interface directly with the consumer on this petroleum products. Concerning this fuel subsidy, which has always been going back and forth for a very long time, and who knows how long more, it will be a subject, an issue. Kerosene, diesel. Look at those two products. When they talk about deregulation, subsidy, why is it that their costs are way over the roof, for at least if they say the average person will benefit or should be able to access those products? And then now we're talking about petrol. So could you explain to us how the dynamics works, why those are that high, such high cost per liter compared to fuel? And is this what will happen to fuel if we remove subsidy, as you say you want to?
Well, the clear, maths here is simple. If importers, if we are encouraged to import every product and we have access to foreign exchange on a very level playing field, you can be sure that competition will run down the prices. But as it is today, if an independent marketer or a major marketer or a Petron member that is looking forward to importing any of these products, he does not have access to Forex. And that is a major component in the importation portfolio. So if you look at the prices, it's being impacted by first cost of accessing funds, and then also the international buying and selling costs. So it's not like there is an arbitrary price increase of diesel or kerosene. It's just that it's difficult to get foreign exchange. And this is why we in Petroleum encourage the government to deregulate and make sure that the foreign exchange is accessible to all of us on a common playing field, whether it's NNPC or it's Jennifer Bay Corporation or any company that wants to import a petroleum product. We should do that. Or we should all come together and ensure that our refining capacity in Nigeria is improved and is efficient and is effective, which is the other reason why we applauded government in the refurbishing and turnaround maintenance and working on the refineries, which again we're hoping to see positive results coming out. So it's not far-fetched that the cost of importing these products is expensive, and it's also difficult to access foreign exchange to do that. But let me say this, I don't think that the price of petroleum products, being deregulated and subsidy removal will in any way run down the economy. It will improve the economy because competition will shoot down the price. That is number one. Number two, we are talking about trillions and trillions of naira being, applied to the subsidy and all of that. This money can be, invested mostly in transportation and provision of Western services that we need to grow the economy. Once the facilities are there, and petroleum products, for instance, can be moved by rail and by pipeline and by the waterways, if this amount of money can be, plugged into dredging the River Niger, the River Benue, to be able to allow for small barges to transport product from Port Harcourt refinery, Warri refinery to storage facilities that can easily be accessed, by Nigerians. So in our computation, at all times, it will be much better for us to have competitive environment, than have this kind of situation where we have everything being imported and directed by, common, central, authority.
Well, it looks like if the words or the promises of the government is anything to go by, it looks like importation in the coming, do I say months or years, might be phased out if all our refineries work optimally, which we'll talk about definitely. But a couple of points you raised, and I just wanted to get clarification on them, because we've had this conversation time and again, and there's still questions that stick out. And it's amazing that over the years that we've discussed this, those questions have not quite been answered. One of them is how much we consume daily. And you say you're the closest to the consumers, essentially. So all of that passes through you and perhaps Ipman and the rest. So if you could just tell us from your figures across members nationwide and extending to Ipman, is it 60 million liters? Is it 100 million liters? Or what? What do we consume daily?
Well, let me bring good news to Nigeria. Petron, as a very responsible organization, looking out for the growth of this economy and to stabilize the realities. There's no way we can just off the cuff do an armchair evaluation of how many liters that we consume every day. The depots are shelling out product allocations by those millions, but the reality is what is the parameter to check to be sure that these petroleum products are consumed by Nigerians and in Nigeria? Petron, in the last 4 months, on October 23rd, launched what is called the Petroleum Product Passport, and also the 3P seal. These products are digital products that have been designed by our members to check what we, as retail outlet owners, actually load from the depots and how they are consumed in the various retail outlets. This will enable us to be able to assist the government to give them some, evidence of how much petroleum product is consumed, because we cannot look. This is our country. We don't have any other country, and we are only having oil and gas as the basis on which our economy runs for over 90%. We are not making any progress in other areas of economic diversification. So Petron is digging deep. We are researching into technology. We have developed the Petroleum Product Passport, which is going to help a great deal in ascertaining this quantity of product that is consumed. The 3P seal will also help in ensuring that petroleum product smuggling out of Nigeria, is mitigated at least to the barest minimum. So we have started deploying this amongst our members, and this is the only time we can take maybe about 180 days to test run the technology, and then we can be able to tell the government in reality, the Nigerians in reality, that as retail outlet owners, we are responsible, we love our country, and we are serving this country. And then we can say, yes, this is the amount of fuel that is consumed from our retail outlets. So we hope that the Nigerian government will encourage these technologies that we have developed. They're indigenous, they are very efficient. We have test run them since October the 23rd, and so far we are getting answers. But it's not going to be, it will be too early to utilize the data we have achieved to compute what is being consumed. So we are hoping that the NNPC, the PPMC, the downstream and midstream authority, even the commission, will give the best support. And of course, we do have a lot of support from all these areas because the Nigerian government led by Buhari, President Buhari, is very desirous that our economy is stable and grows. And we see that kind of support we are getting.
I think
this question at that particular time, when we have done enough test runs and actual data that will come out of there. So as it is today, honestly, I cannot tell you if we are consuming 60 million liters a day or 100 million liters a day or 20 million liters a day. But we believe that in the next 1 year or two, Nigerians will get accurate figure on how that works with the technology we have developed.
But I'm sure it must be very concerning to you. I mean, to think that over these years, we can't put our finger on just how much we consume daily. The president of the Senate says perhaps 100 million is really outrageous. He doesn't want to believe that we consume 100 million liters per day. And interestingly, the subsidy figures per month is calculated based on the amount of liters we consume on a daily basis, then multiplied by 30. The NNPC GMD had done that calculation, and what he did was for 60 million liters. So, I mean, you can do projections, definitely. Is it closer to 60 or 100?
Well, I can tell you, in all honesty, with my heart, crossed, for truth, that 60 million liters of petroleum product consumed daily in Nigeria is subject that we should be able to do some deep, empirical research and come up with, true values. But of course, it will be closer. It will be a little bit more down 60 than close to 100 for any reason.
Well, it's I don't know. So we've been calculating subsidy based on figures that we're not even sure of. So we don't know how much fuel we'll bring into this country for decades. I don't know how these things work, really. But just give me a moment. Let's bring in Dr. John Arena. He joins us now. Good morning, Dr. Arena. Thank you for joining us on the program today. Well,
good morning, Chamberlain.
Yeah, this is your field, your area. You've been in this for a while now. So what do you make of the back and forth? We're here again talking about removal or not of fuel subsidy.
Well, Chamberlain, good morning, and good morning to Nigerians. Just like any other Nigerian, I'm bemused about the flip-flop in government about this issue of fuel subsidy. All I'll say that it doesn't bring credibility to government policy making when we keep going further and back. It does raise serious questions of credibility.
So the issue of credibility is one, and the question then you want to ask is, who should be probing the figures? It will seem like the governors are uncertain, are asking questions, Labour is asking questions, the President of the Senate is asking questions, and the NNPC, the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, the Minister of State for Petroleum, I don't know if anyone is even giving any satisfactory answer whatsoever.
Again, we seem to be on a circus. Statutorily, I believe that the regulatory agencies have responsibility for keeping the data and monitoring movement of petroleum products in the country. We did have DPR, which has transited to the midstream and downstream regulatory authority. And under normal circumstances, they should be the repository of the information, and they should be able to tell us the size of the market, the volumes consumed in the market. And last, and the news, I can't understand it. Why that information should not readily be available from the regulators.
From where you sit, would you say there is some intention to hoard the information, or it's just not available? Is it possible for that information to not be available, or that it's been hidden?
Let me put it this way. I'd like to shoot straight on this. A few years ago, there was a disagreement between two government regulators, between the GPR and the PPPRA. They had diametrically opposed numbers on the fuel import volumes. And that clearly spoke to most of us who were interested in the industry, that this whole question of subsidy leads to all sorts of things, including manipulation. And that is one of the strong arguments against continued retention of subsidy. Because for as long as we continue to pay subsidy, it's subject to all sorts of manipulation, and also it raises a lot of questions. But if subsidy was not an issue, perhaps it would have been a lot easier to get accurate figures. The subsidies kind of provide an overhand, an overcast on the whole question of the volume of petroleum products consumed in the country.
You know, another question that just comes to mind now, Doctor, is there are those who have been asking, please, who really is getting this subsidy? If the NNPC is the sole importer of fuel into the country, and it's the same NNPC that is, what's the word now, paying this subsidy, there are those who are asking all kinds of questions. So are these questions for you, are they valid, and do you think we will ever get an answer to them?
Well, if I understand your question correctly, subsidy is very simple and straightforward. The products are landing at prices that are higher than the pump prices that have been approved by government. Therefore, somebody has to underwrite that difference. So NNPC does it on behalf of the country, and then recovers its loss one way or the other, and that's the subsidy we're talking about. Otherwise, NNPC itself will go under, because it doesn't have the infinite resources to continuously underwrite the losses.
Now, that brings me to my next question, and it's something we have sort of raised, but on the other side is the figure for subsidy. So the government is proposing 3 trillion naira for this year. And I recall in times past, in fact, for last year, for example, and I'll take this quote from the Minister of Finance, saying that we have a situation where in a month, this was in July, by the way, the subsidy cost was as much as 150 billion naira. A few years before that, you had the president speaking on the 2019 budget saying that they have allowed $1 billion, that's 305 billion naira, as payment for under-recoveries. Apparently, subsidy under-recoveries mean the same thing. And now this year, I mean, if you compute that, $1 billion, that was 305 billion naira as a 2019 budget. Last year, that's 150 billion naira per month. If you multiply that by 12 months, you don't get anywhere close to 3 trillion. So now that we see that 3 trillion is the figure for this year, does that worry you? Does that raise, red flags for you as well?
Yeah, that's very worrisome for sure. You know that the quantum of subsidy is tied to a number of factors, including the exchange rate, the prevailing exchange rate, as well as the price of crude oil in the world market. Right now, we have crude oil that is in excess of $90 per barrel, and our exchange rate is not particularly good. It's over 400 naira to the dollar officially. So a combination of these will continue to exert an upward pressure on the quantum of subsidy that will have to be put in place. And that is very worrisome because it's like there's no cap, there's no ceiling. It will continue to spiral up as long as the dynamics continue to be against us.
Well, we'll take a look at some more concerns that have been raised and how do we actually address some of these when we return in just a moment. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We are with Dr. John Erina and Dr. Gillis Harry. Well, both of them speaking about the fuel subsidy, several questions about some of those figures. Do they even add up in the first instance? Well, Dr. Erina, let's get back to you on this matter. Now, yes, they say, look, we don't know the actual figure, so it's based on estimates. But if the refineries were to function here, how is that going to change anything?
Well, if the refineries are going to function efficiently and we're able to meet our requirements internally, there will be a bit of an advantage in the sense that the freight elements of and other logistics, other cost elements associated with logistics will not be part of the price build-up for petroleum products at the pumps. So what that means is that we should be able to have petroleum products at a lower price. But
okay.
Mind you, it may not be very substantially lower than what we have, what it's supposed to be right now.
Why is that? Why do you say so?
Yeah, because, well, it will depend on government policy. If government decides that there's still going to be no subsidy, it means that local refiners or the refinery will have to buy crude oil at international price, at the world market price. And once that is in place, it means that it's also going to there's going to be a ripple effect to the pumps. So,
despite the fact that we may eliminate the cost of taking crude abroad and then bringing it back, the landing cost, so all of those notwithstanding, it will still be just marginally different, you say?
Well, I didn't say marginally, I said substantially.
Substantially?
Okay. Yeah, yes, it will not. Yeah, because those freight and logistics elements will no longer feature, and that will provide some advantage.
Okay, so
I can't
put it in clear terms for us, if you will. If at the moment it's 165 per litre, so how much would it be substantially when that changes?
No, I can't give you that number straight away because it's got to be worked out carefully.
Okay.
Just to be clear as well, before we go to Mr. Billy Gillis Harry. So as it stands now, I noticed what you said, that it will be substantially different from what it is meant to be, which is when subsidy is removed. Some say, 400, close to 400. So you're saying that if the refineries are working, government takes its hands off subsidy, they will be paying in the region of 300 or thereabouts.
Yeah, if for instance, the pump price today is supposed to be, without subsidy, say, okay, for sake of argument, if it's 400, you can expect that if you're refining locally, you're probably going to have pump price, if it's driven by market forces, maybe in the region of about 350, plus or minus. I haven't worked this out carefully, so I won't tell you that these are sacrosanct figures, but these are just other magnitude kind of numbers.
So, because we asked this because some time ago you were quoted to have said failed refineries cost us about 20 billion naira, even though, well, now I think the government has approved some 1.5 trillion naira for Port Harcourt refinery, and then Dangote refinery is supposed to come on stream. So, in terms of us getting the actual figure of how much petroleum products we consume, how much impact will this make if these two refineries were to come on stream?
Look, for as long as we are not prepared to do the right things, even if you have the local refineries feeding the domestic market, you probably will never settle on correct numbers. It's not rocket science. if we're seriously committed to knowing the volumes that are sold in the market today, we would. We have regulators who have that responsibility. They have the ways and means of picking up the information and putting the information together. The fact that I can't understand why we don't have the information. It's there, or it should be there. So
in other words,
I really don't like this idea of dancing round and round an issue that is very simple.
So do you consider the committee that is set up by the House of Reps as part of what you said, dancing around in circles?
It's all part of it. It's all part of it. I mean, look, we have a parliament that just a couple of weeks ago passed a budget that had a half-year component of subsidy payment in it. And suddenly, the same parliament comes around to say that, oh, sorry, nobody told us that there was going to be subsidy removal in the year. So it's all part of the circus.
Well,
these things these things impact negatively on the image of Nigeria, on the credibility of Nigeria, and the ease of doing business, and Nigeria as a business partner. I just feel that our credibility is being very grossly eroded.
Well, Dr. Rene, I know you are quite vast in the upstream and downstream sector. I mean, for years you have worked in that area, so I can imagine how you feel. But let me take this to Dr. Billy Gillis-Harry. So he thinks that if we want to find out, that's Dr. Rene, if we want to find out how much we consume, we can get that today. So it's not something that is rocket science, having to get a committee or invest in a lot of tech for it. I mean, it's something that we sign for, essentially, or that is on paper, or there should be records for it. And he's quite concerned that this is affecting the image of Nigeria as a whole. I know that you are for subsidy removal, but if we've not been able to answer these questions of just how are we coming about the subsidy we're even spending right now? Because it's that same culture we might take into the next phase. If we budgeted 443 billion for 6 months and we're saying for the remaining 1 year we have to do close to 3 trillion, I mean, those figures don't really add up. So for you, do you see red flags in those figures as well?
Well, the red flags are there. They don't need to be thought about. The red flags are there. The amounts being bandied are frightening. Really, my concern is that we must, as a country, begin to think about how we can stabilize our country and make our country grow. We can't continue like this. I do agree with Dr. Rene that the information for how many liters we consume per day should be readily available. But if for some inefficient reason we are not able to get that, I think it behoves all of us to come on the board to be able to help our country out. Because we need the truth. If you don't have the right population size, you cannot plan for Nigeria. And so if we cannot have the right size of petroleum product that is consumed daily, as far as PMS, AGO, DPK, and even gas is concerned, we cannot plan,
So, Dr. Harry, let me just ask you, I mean, if for decades, this is the mainstay of the economy, by the way, we're talking about here, billions of dollars involved in that, in the economy. If for decades we haven't done much to ensure that we can actually put a finger on the exact number of petroleum products we consume in this country, not just estimates, what's the guarantee that these 3 Ps that you say you're working on will not be frustrated at the end of the day?
Well, everything in life is what, taking the best decision for. If we want to succeed and make Nigeria great, we have to just decide it. It's a matter of decision and walking that decision. So for us as an association, we believe that we can help Nigeria to do much better. And we are, hands on deck working on that by all standards and all ways. The government is not in any way frustrating anything that's good. I believe that the government is also needing help and needing assistance to be able to, penetrate in most of all these information.
Dr. Gillett Harris, one would have assumed, I don't know if it is safe to assume that petroleum products retail outlet owners keep records of their procurements. And I would assume that there will be at least an aggregate of what each outlet receives in each state of the nation on a daily basis. Is there such a figure with your members?
Well, the figure is supposed to exist, but without, a very determined process of aggregating that information in a common database, data center, you cannot talk about
your association. Is that to say that your association does not keep that figure?
No, well, don't forget that we came on board about 1 year, 10 months ago. And we have since, within this period, made quite a lot of, association policy impacts to be able to change the narrative. And this is one of these policy narratives we brought that is going to change the equation.
Yeah,
because we cannot truly, honestly, as Nigerians, look, Nigeria don't belong to just only the government.
Yeah, but we get that. So are you telling us now that even though you came on stream 1 year, some months ago, your association, your members don't have records of petroleum products that they receive on a regular basis?
Well, we have records, but how will you keep the records as an individual, that is not better kept by those who should be able to give it to us? What we have done is come up with ideas of how we can be able to enhance this record keeping by actually providing, opportunity for genuine petroleum products that are sold in retail outlets to be kept. Don't forget that most of the problem we're having is also adulterated product, which today the government is also fighting. And what the petroleum product passport will do is also to detect this and give information to the government.
When is this supposed to come on stream?
Well, we're already on now. We've done a test run since November.
So what did you see then? What figures showed from the test run?
Well, the figure, don't forget that you have to upload all the retail outlets in the country on the platform.
Yeah, you've done test run. What did you see in the test run?
Well, in the test run so far, we are just working out of River State, Cross Rivers, Abia, Bayelsa, Delta, Edo. At this time, Kogi is coming on board. Benue is already on board. So this information, I cannot sit down here now and give you that. I have to, contact my team to be able to give me what they've been able to, put together within this period.
And I
can tell you that the system will be a game changer. It will be a game changer.
But it's quite befuddling that something as fundamental, as vital as this, we still don't have a figure to it. And I just wonder, all of this secrecy and all, who benefits from it? Because it looks like there's a grand plan to keep this, behind the curtains and maybe keep benefiting from it. So I just wonder, to whose benefit really is all of this secrecy when it comes to refineries and the state of refineries, how much we consume per day, subsidy payment? Who really benefits from this?
Let me say this. Petron as an association wants the Nigerians to benefit from all the information that will help us in growing this segment of the economy. And as you know, this is a very, very important segment. So get back to me in the next 6 months, and you will get accurate information that will assist both the NNPC, the authorities, the security agencies, and all of us as retail outlet owners and consumers to be able to help build our value. What we pray is that government should give us the highest support, and we are getting that. I can tell you that right away.
Okay.
The government is very happy with what we're doing. They are very supportive of the petroleum product passport and is working. If there was any intention to be for secrecy, I don't think that we will get the kind of support we're getting.
Right. So let's get...
I'll tell you, let me say this.
Right.
I will tell you that NNPC will be more than happy to have our database to compare to what they have. The authority would like to have, yes.
Pardon me, we need to close now. We're totally out of time. I'd like to get Dr. Rene's closing thoughts on this. So, I mean, this is like something we get every time. We approach the issues, but you don't come up with as much answers as you need. That's why the House is setting up a committee. The Senate President says we don't know how much we consume daily. So on a final note, as we wrap up, to what benefit really is all this secrecy, and is there a way out of it?
Well, my take is that if subsidy is discontinued tomorrow, we're going to have accurate figures on our consumption. A good deal of the confusion, a good deal of the problem is caused by the fact that there is subsidy. And of course, one of the strong arguments against subsidy is that it engenders corruption. And that is part of why the figures tend to be opaque. There's no transparency in the way the figures are kept and the way the numbers are disseminated.
All right.
So I think what the retailers are doing is very commendable. That perhaps will bring some credibility to the table. Otherwise, we'll just continue to go around in circles about this.
All right, then, Dr. John Erina, energy consultant and past president, Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers, as well as Dr. Billy Gillies-Harry, national president, Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria, Petroleum. Thank you both for talking to us today.
Thank you very much.
All right, we will be back in a moment. We'll be turning our attention to another matter entirely. Stay with us.
The year 2022 has presented itself as electioneering year, and political activities seem to be on the increase. The visit by the leadership of the People's Democratic Party, led by its national chairman, Iyorchia Ayu, to former President Olusegun Obasanjo may not be out of place. After a closed-door meeting which lasted over 2 hours, the former president and his guests emerged to address the press. Chief Obasanjo challenges the national chairman on providing the much-needed leadership for the party and also reiterates his desire not to participate in partisan politics anymore.
I will say that your own responsibility is not an easy one either, but it has to be done. But bear in mind, and I want to emphasize that, I'm no longer in partisan politics, and there's nothing that will bring me back to partisan politics. But I will always be interested in what is good for Nigeria. And anybody who wants to have my advice, I will unstintingly give it.
For the national chairman of the PDP, Chief Obasanjo's leadership style deserves commendation.
Thank you very much for the service to our country and the great work you have done within the PDP as its first president. Your period as president under the platform of the PDP is seen as the golden era of the PDP, because not only did you grow the economy to be the biggest economy in Africa, by the time you left office, Nigeria was virtually debt-free. Direct foreign investment was on the increase on a daily basis. We were respected in the international community everywhere we went.
He says the new party leadership is poised to restore the supposed lost glory of the country.
We want to assure you that the new leadership of the PDP, together with the rest of the PDP family, will do everything possible, door to door, word by word, local government by local government across the country, to restore the lost glory of Nigeria, which your era was a shining example.
The PDP leadership is optimistic that the consultation with the former president and his council are a step in the right direction in putting its house in order ahead of the general elections in 2023.
Welcome back. We're focusing on the internal wranglings within the People's Democratic Party. We've got two gentlemen of the same party joining us from our studios in Abuja. First of which is Sadakole Ijogi, who is a political economist and a member of the People's Democratic Party, as well as Sani Umar, who is a former spokesman, Presidential Campaign Council of the PDP. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for joining us today on the program.
Good morning, Chamberlain, Mike Day, and Ayo.
All right, let me start with you. Yes, let me start with you, Mr. Ma. You know, looking at all of this, your party, you always touted that you were ready to hit the ground running when called upon. But can we still say the same thing, given some of the signs we've seen recently where different groups, different factions fighting over who emerges as what, for instance, as we just saw in Ekiti?
Yeah. You know, it is a normal political practice where people have different interests. Different interest groups emerge within a political party to try to push their own ambitions. And what we have witnessed in Ekiti is a normal political rumbling. There are so many camps within the PDP in Ekiti State, but the most prominent one are the IOFIOSHE-led group, and of course the female senator, who also has a group. There are other subgroups, but they have decided to merge with her to fight the IOFIOSHE group, and it's normal because power is not gotten on a lighter scale. So you have to struggle for it, and I think this is what is happening in Ekiti State. It has generated a lot of issues. Even the delegate elections were cancelled by the party because they found that it was tilted towards one side, and at the end of the day, they had to use statutory delegates to ensure that the primaries as to who emerges as the gubernatorial candidate of the party is held. And from all indications and from what we have heard, the IOFIOSHE group has emerged victorious with BC Kolaole as the candidate of the party in Ekiti State. What we are praying is that let our party be able to defeat the APC in that state.
Okay, but let me take this to Adakole. You know, many were of the impression that your party's new mantra was to let feuding parties sheath their swords and, you know, let there be a clean slate such that people will approach the task of getting back to the center in unison. But from what we've seen in Ekiti, does this suggest that old habits die hard?
Good morning, Chamberlain, and thank you for having me. I think that what has played out, or what is playing out essentially in Ekiti State within the People's Democratic Party, attests to the fact that we, as a party, have come of age, and in Ekiti, the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, is the party that is a party that is the government in wait. Hence, the contentious issues that you have within the party. And to answer your question directly, I think I beg to slightly differ from saying that we have not learned from the past. Just like my colleague here in the studio alluded to, you can see the direction of the new leadership of the party. You can see that the ad hoc delegate congresses that were conducted had a few skirmishes in it, and in the wisdom of the party, that whole process was cancelled so as to not to give undue advantage to a particular candidate or to some particular power blocks within the Ekiti State. But by and large, the PDP is the People's Democratic Party. The PDP is poised, you know, to rescue and rebuild Nigeria, and that. You can see how we have gone about handling the congresses in Ekiti to the primary election. Yes, there are some talk of some skirmishes here and there. That usually happens, you know, like when I was responding to that on a different platform yesterday night, and I said, have you ever tried managing a WhatsApp group, Chamberlain, of 50 Nigerians? You know how very contentious and boisterous we can be when it comes to observing simple rules and regulation. So I just think that we have been actually on top of our game in Ekiti. The primary election and the processes leading to it are things that the current leadership of the party, have been monitoring and guarding jealously so as to ensure that the processes and procedures leading up to the election is devoid of rancor, devoid of imposition and all those unnecessary things that we used to have within the People's Democratic Party in the past.
But managing a WhatsApp group and being at the center from 1999, two different things. And many would have thought the recent lessons of having lost a center might have served as a very good case in point, such that everybody understands get to the program or get with the program, as they say. But this scenario, wouldn't you agree with those who say, look, this is just a cannon fodder for there just might be something brewing? Reconciliation is not going to be any easy now, is it?
Well, fortunately for us in the People's Democratic Party, we have some level of some high-powered internal conflict resolution mechanism within the party. Shortly before the congresses, there was a committee set up by the national leadership for the party led by Professor Jerry Ghana, and you had people like former Senate President David Mark and others in that very high-powered committee so as to warehouse all the different interests. They are not camps within the PDP in Ekiti. They are just different political interests. They are ambitions that are clashing. Hence, you see the fracas that you have. So I'm saying essentially that within the party, one of the things that we have resolved moving forward to do is not to fight to finish, because the objective here is winning elections, and Nigerians are waiting for the People's Democratic Party to come and better their lot. When we look at our well-being, we look at the security situation, when we look at other indices, about our well-being as Nigerians, the economy, healthcare, COVID, and all of this, the value of the currency, we know that we need better governance. Hence, the resolve within the People's Democratic Party to come as one particular unit. Yes, you might have ambitions. You might have ambitions that are flying here and there. But within the party members and party leadership have agreed, have come together. They are they have unanimously agreed that we shall henceforth conduct ourselves going to any election as one particular block. So we shall overcome the small disagreements that you have for people that have lost, or people that have felt that the processes didn't go their favor. But they know that they have a party leadership led by Senator Yochia Ayu that is fair, equitable, and just. Yeah, I mean, we have learned our lessons, and the People's Democratic Party is you have a new People's Democratic Party that is willing to follow the processes and procedures to the letter. So in rounding up this particular question, I would like to put it out there to Nigerians to say that the People's Democratic Party, with its new leadership, is poised to definitely do the right thing and ensure that all members are carried under the umbrella of the party.
So has the party followed the procedure? We'll examine some cases in point when we return. Don't go away. Welcome back. We're with Adakole Ijogi and Sani Omar, both members of the People's Democratic Party in different capacities. Well, gentlemen, I'd like you to listen to this particular perspective on the same subject matter, of which Mr. Adakole says that, well, now they're following procedures and strategies. But let's listen to this.
I felt cheated. I felt badly handled by the party. I felt disenfranchised. Short of feeling a bit insulted, because what has happened is that for the last almost 2 years, we had been fighting for the Congress that took place and was hijacked by a section of the party. And we've expended so much energy, so much financial resources, and so much mental resources on the issue. Let me say, I am the only one standing for the PDP in Ekiti State as at today. and there was just my local government and the other one left. And we were expecting that congresses would hold there so that at least I can have a full complement of delegates to take me into the primaries. But lo and behold, I got there today and found that the party, in their wisdom, had only allowed automatic delegates, only 12 of them from my local government. And the next local government, Boeing local government, 10 to participate in the activities. I felt that was unjustified.
And this is for Mr. Jogi in particular, because you've tried to compare this to a WhatsApp group trying to administer it and say, this is all part of the whole, process that shows that PDP is the party to beat, as it were. But you've listened to Senator Olujimi. Her words, she felt cheated, badly handled, disenfranchised, talked about just having 12 automatic delegates to that convention. And she's spoken about what she has done for the party. So does that sound like a party that follows rules and procedures?
Well, thank you for that question, Super K. But I think that what Senator, with due respect to the very distinguished Senator Olujimi, who is a very respectable member of the party, we appreciate her. And actually, she's actually the last woman standing in Ekiti State. I mean, she's the only senator that we have. In fact, the only National Assembly member that we have in Ekiti State. So we pay full compliments to her. Now, what the very distinguished senator did not say is that those congresses that were cancelled, they were supposed to produce three ad hoc delegates in line with the constitution of the party. Now, because the processes were marred with certain irregularities, that is the congresses that were that took place about 2 weeks ago, the national leadership of the party cancelled the process so as to give Senator Olujimi a fair chance. Now, there are just three ad hoc delegates per should we have allowed people who are not delegates to that particular primaries be in the primaries? We should at all times stick to the constitution of the party, follow procedures and processes. Yes, she might have felt disenfranchised, but as a politician, I will tell you this for free, that those two local governments cannot warrant you to be winning. Ekiti, there are so many other local governments. If the candidate is popular within the state, then there's this presupposition that the candidate should have campaigned in all other local governments. So the constitutionally required number of delegates that was available were the ones that participated in the primaries. With due respect to Senator Olujimi, which is a very respected member of the party. I'm sorry to even be calling her names out because I don't go on national TV to start a name calling. But to answer your question, yes, the party followed the processes and procedures in accordance to our constitution. Hence, the limited number of delegates from those two local governments that she alluded to, because those were the local governments that the national leadership of the party cancelled the ad hoc delegates that would have complemented her pot of delegates or her war chest going to the primaries to support whoever candidate that she chooses to support.
All right, Mr. Moore, are processes and procedures being followed in the build-up, in the determination of who emerges, who will be the flag bearer for the People's Democratic Party at the center?
Well, from the Ekiti example, I believe that in its first assignment as a new ESCO, the party ought to have ensured that they get it right at the first assignment. And the first assignment was Ekiti. Now, sending a low-key Congress committee to Ekiti to go and spoil the fun and make a mockery of the process is not a plus for the new National Executive Committee of the party or National Working Committee of the party. They ought to have ensured that the person that they are sending, those people they are sending are people of impeccable character who will do these necessary things. the 3 ad hoc delegates are very important delegates, and they command quite a number, because the ad hoc delegates are elected in each ward, which means they could be up to about 2,000 or more in Ekiti State. But if you take a general look at the elections in Ekiti State, statutory delegates are less than 1,000. The other, the BC Kola only got 600 plus, and Segun only got 300 plus, and the rest were getting 26, 10, 1, 2, and so forth and so on. So if you take an aggregate and a summation of the total, less than 1,000 people voted for a governorship candidate, somebody who is supposed to be the governor of Ekiti State. Now, the more the merrier. If quite a number of people elect the governorship candidate, it gives that candidate some credibility, some level of acceptance, a wider level of acceptance, and of course, it gives him the confidence that he will carry the majority along when he, in the final process, into emerging as the governor of the state. So I think the process is flawed, but nevertheless, it is better done correctly than to go. I don't know which side the delegate will have favored, why the National Working Committee cancelled the Ekiti primaries. So but whichever side or the reasons they used to cancel it, I think Senator Olujimi, her lamentations has shown that they were against her. And if they were against her, it means they are supporting somebody. And if they are supporting somebody, it does not give room for somebody to believe that fairness was handed over to him, that justice was handed over to him, that equity was not given to him.
Are you worried?
Her complaints are in order, but I want to know what the National Executive Committee or National Working Committee will do if she had complained to them to now take necessary steps to remedy her complaints. Nevertheless, I think by and large, I would say that using the statutory delegates may be the only option at that time, but perhaps they could have given added additional time for a new delegate list be done, and if they are not satisfied with the other one, a new delegate list be done, and then the statutory and the ad hoc delegates will have merged and then done the elections. Perhaps the other party will have thought, being a former governor of the state, Ayofayoshe will have been the one that will have masterminded the
okay, so Mr. Ma,
delegates, because
now
those ones are done by appointments.
If your party loses the elections in Ekiti, is that going to be what, like a sore thumb? Is it going to hugely affect your chances of winning at the center?
Well, Ekiti State is just one part of Nigeria, and I don't think their voting capacity would naturally affect our general chances in Nigeria. Nevertheless, I am not discounting the fact that Ekiti State is very important in the scheme of things. The point is that the right candidate should be chosen that will give us, the advantage of winning the elections. I don't know the pedigree of Bisi Kola Ole, but what I have read about him is that he was a party chairman in the state. He was a commissioner. He was, a member of the state assembly, and so forth. So I think his pedigree cannot be compared with that of Segun Oni, who was a former governor. And I don't know the acceptability level of Segun Oni now, whether the people of Ekiti want him back as a governor or not. But by and large, I believe that a comparative advantage, when placed side by side, I think Engineer Segun Oni stands more chance of giving the party the governorship ticket. But even if we don't win the governorship ticket in Ekiti State, I don't see it substantially affecting our general performance in the country. But I am very prayerful that we are going to win the elections in Ekiti State.
Well, there is something you said earlier in response to the previous question, raises this question on my mind, Mr. Amar. And that is when you were talking about the delegates and, you know, the way they voted and all, and the last submission you made now. Doesn't that in one way or the other question the mode of primaries for you?
Well, you know, the mode of primaries is enshrined in the constitution of our party. Now, if there are crises or certain situations that actually comes, you know, to bring conflict within the party, then the National Working Committee has to rise to the occasion and do something. And one of them, you know, perhaps because they had already scheduled the governorship primaries, you know, so they had to use statutory delegates, which was what happened in Anambra State. And you know the complaints we had in Anambra State when statutory delegates were used, the people who felt they would have won the primaries didn't win, and they felt the person who won was not the right person to have won that primaries, and as such, he could not have delivered the position, and he could not have been an effective battle, a fighter against Chukwuma Soludo of the ABGA political party. So I think the limitation of the number of delegates that voted really is very worrisome. However, I hope and pray that the person that the delegates voted is the right candidate and that he will deliver for us. He is well accepted in Ekiti and he will deliver for us. If it is because of, you know, some pecuniary interest that he is put there, then I'm very sorry. We are likely not going to win Ekiti State, and it is very worrisome, you know, when limited number. That is why people were agitating for direct primaries, because every member of the party will have the opportunity to come in and vote for a candidate of his choice, and then the higher the number, you know, the more the party is sensitized, galvanized, you know, and ready, you know, be placed squarely in the minds of the people of the state. I believe that it brings to question, like you rightly pointed out, the mode of primaries.
Well, Mr. Ajogi, I don't know if you want to say a thing or two in response to what you have heard Mr. Omar say now, because some of the things that you also, you know, hinted at earlier indicates that those internal wranglings are still there, as significant as they are, given, you know, his comments about Mr. Omar's comments about one of the contestants who is a former governor and another of the contestants who pulled out who is a serving senator compared to, you know, the person that eventually won.
Well, why I agree that moving forward in getting better elections, we need to strengthen our electoral laws, and especially within political parties, because political party is in the epicenter of the democratic process. So if you don't get well-oiled, structured political parties, the outcome is usually faulty. So I think that we need to get direct primaries. I'm in favor of direct primaries, where everybody, you know, expresses themselves. Each party, each card-carrying member of a party expresses themselves during primaries in selection of candidates. Because at the end of the day, those delegates, no matter how, whether they are 2,000, 4,000, or like in the national election, the PDP delegates about 3,700 national delegates that will elect the president, the presidential candidate, and the vice presidential candidate. And some of those delegates, I must say here that some of those delegates don't even understand the issues, you know, that we're going through. I mean, when we see delegates, especially from places like maybe Yobe, Kebbi, Katsina, some of those delegates really don't understand the issues about the economy, the importance of the democratic process of picking a credible candidate that can actually fix Nigeria. So some of us are advocates for direct primaries, but the Ekiti issue, I mean, I maintain, you know, succinctly that the party acted in accordance with the constitution of the party. Yes, they had efforts were made to mend fences with regards to conducting credible congresses, across the state, and for the power blocks within Ekiti to mend fences and go together as one block. But as you know, political power and in Nigeria most times are self-driven and self-led. You have somebody that shouts that he's the rock, another person says he's the lion, another person says this is that. But at the end of the day, the question for some of us who are true intrinsic party men is, were the processes and procedures followed? And if the answer is in the affirmative, then I think that the party is in the right position. If the processes are followed as you have said, and this is the result we have, and a number of people are still feeling, as Senator Olujimi said, cheated, do you see this being resolved in a way that will not affect the chances of the party when the general elections come? Because if this continues the way it has continued, given these processes and procedures that you talked about, and this level of displeasure within the party, if it continues across all other 35 states, what are the chances then? It will certainly not continue across all 35 states. When you look at the People's Democratic Party, how we came out from the recently successful convention that we had, you will know that the party is in tune with new realities. The People's Democratic Party is now remodeling itself to go into elections with the best possible foot forward. And if we're talking national elections, for instance, like I'm alluding to the party convention that we just had, if you see the process of zoning and not zoning the presidential ticket, whether it should be the north or the south, the party's position, this position was taken by the National Executive Committee of the party, the NEC, that the PDP will not zone its presidential candidate. Because if you look at it, the party is coming out of its doldrums, coming out of its dark ages. We're purging ourselves from imposition of candidates and all that. I mean, even if you go back to Ekiti, I mean, why don't you even look at it? Why did the national leadership of the party cancel that congresses that were held in Ekiti? Because it was hijacked, acclaimed by the very distinguished senator. That's what she alluded to. If it was hijacked, then it's in her favor that the party cancelled the whole process. Because if those delegates are allowed, because I know a few things about what transpired with Ekiti and Senator Olujimi, which I'm not willing to devolve on national TV. But that being said, I'm thinking that what happened there is not a microcosm of what will be replicated across the country. It is just that we just had a process where, you had infiltration of, some bad elements within the society. The way we run our politics. You have even people from the opposition, APC, coming to infiltrate the party. I mean, coming to cause trouble.
Mr. Jogi,
see them winding daggers.
What about those thugs that were arrested by the police? Are you blaming it on the rain now?
Those are essentially thugs. They are not members of our party.
Are they not thugs on the party?
Of our party. We even got security reports that some of them were even coming from Ibadan and other places into Ekiti for the primaries. They're not members of our party.
But some said that it was members of a party that hired them.
No, that's subjective. That's being speculative. That's purely speculative. I don't think so. I mean, we are peace-loving people, and the Ekiti people are very brilliant people. It's about the issues of the election. It's not about wielding daggers and carrying machetes. The People's Democratic Party, we're a cultured party. We're a party with a soul. We're a party that wants to rescue and rebuild Nigeria. It's not about wielding daggers and machetes all over the whole places. No, I don't think so. I just think that it has been infiltrated by unfortunate elements. Just like we have. I mean, let's tell ourselves the truth. Just
all
like
right, let me bring in Mr. Ma on this as we wind down. Yeah, pardon me. Let me bring in Mr. Ma as we wind down on this one. Well, he says that the party has decided not to zone the presidential ticket. How are the members receiving this?
Well, I do not know when the party took that decision because I'm not very familiar whether the new national, whether there was a NEC meeting recently and the party took that position that there should be no zoning. All I know is that there was a committee which was headed by Senator Bala Abdul Qadir Mohammed, the executive governor of Bauchi State, that came up with a committee report and recommendation that the party should not zone the presidency to any part of the country. But that report is yet to be deliberated by the National Executive Committee of the party for it to take a final position as to whether zoning or no zoning. However, individuals who are interested in contesting elections have come out to say they will contest, notwithstanding whatever that is happening, whether the chairmanship of the party comes to the north or whoever is this or that. These are agitations, but it does not still remove the fact that the party is yet to take a position, and it could do so any moment from now. And because pressure groups are springing up, you know, governors of the southern states, about 8 of them have met to say that power must shift to the south. And so they are within the party, and they are saying that the party should zone the presidential ticket to the south. And so these agitations are gaining momentum and gaining grounds. And of course, the northern people are saying, no, I want to contest, we must contest. You can see Senator Bukola Saraki, who just yesterday declared that he wants to contest. We know that Senator Bola Mohammed is also interested in contesting the elections. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is also interested in contesting the elections, and we are expecting more to come out. So I am very careful not to say no decision was taken, but this is what I know.
Okay, it doesn't look as if it's the more the merrier, or it will be the more the merrier at this time, but who knows? Who knows with politicians? Well, gentlemen, we have to thank you for coming on. Sani Umar, former spokesman, Presidential Campaign Council of the PDP, as well as Adakole Jogi, political economist and a member of the party. Thank you both.
Thank you for having us.
All right, let's take a look at some feedback coming through from you. This one comes from Adeyeye Bola about subsidy removal. He says, delaying the subsidy removal by 18 months is tantamount to postponing the evil day. The question begging for an answer is, why is it difficult to make the refineries work?
Good question there. Well, Olagunju Oladele says removal of fuel subsidy is economically reasonable but politically suicidal. The federal government seems not to have a plan whilst they flow with the political influence.
Alonge Festus is asking a question as well. So, in a country of over 100 million graduates, we cannot have accurate figures of petroleum products we consume daily for over 40 years?
Good question.
If you ask
I think
me.
we asked that question like 4 different ways today on the program. Take a look at this one from Dixon Eka on Fuel Queue, saying the continued long queues in filling stations in Abuja is disturbing and it's unacceptable. After the suspension of the fuel subsidy removal by the federal government and the promises from the NNPC that we have enough fuel, why do we have more closed filling stations in Abuja? On Airport Road, Abuja, 4 out of 5 filling stations are closed, and same with other areas. Can the DPR and other regulatory agencies move around to check the excesses and greed of filling station owners if we truly have fuel and they're not selling? I think they will be the upstream, the commission and the authority now. That's what we call them. But that's from Dixon. Big question for Abuja.
Okay, well, Comrade Edwin, we see your tweet, but we'll just have to go ahead and take the poll first for now. So let's take a look at how you voted. We did put up a poll yesterday. Remember, the TI came up with their report on what they think about corruption in the country. So we did ask you, how would you rate the fight against FG's fight against corruption? So the options were very well, average, and below expectations. So as you see there, 4% or 5% of the people, 4.5%, okay, eventually turned out to be 5%. But at the time we captured it, it was 4.5% of the people said it was average. No, it was very well. For 13.9% said it was average, and then 81.6% of you said it's below expectations.
Well, you may also want to, first of all, go follow us on Twitter right now. And some of the comments under this particular poll are quite interesting.
Chime, Communism just seems to be the first and above all else. It's quite cheeky.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's where we draw the curtains, as they say on the program this morning. But the conversation continues definitely often on social media. I'm Kayode Okikiolu.
Make Nigeria great today. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Make it great every day, please. I'm Tribue and Independent. Goodbye.